I'm just with you.
Okay.
No, it's fine. Yes, you can sit.
May I invite you to take your seats? A very good morning to all of you. My name is Dede Amano-Wilkes, and I'm the Director of Communications at the African Center for Economic Transformation, one of the partners. And a reminder that this is a G20 Compact with Africa initiative that is being supported by the government of Ghana and the IFC. It's a very exciting and challenging format that we're having today because we're operating on 2 continents and 2 capitals in Accra and Berlin. Berlin have already started, an hour ahead of us. We'll join them at 9 o'clock GMT in 30 minutes time or just under. And I'd just like to ask you all to help me to ensure we stick to time. It's very crucial that we do stick to time so that we can link up at the appropriate moments. So without further ado, I'd now like to introduce the IFC country manager, Ronke Amoni Ogunshulire, who is going to welcome us all. Ronke?
Good morning. Okay. Honorable Robert Ahomok. Oh, here comes Ken. I'll wait. Honorable Ken Oforiatta, Minister of Finance of Ghana. Honorable Robert Amoka Lindsay, Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry. Mr. Yofi Grant, CEO of Ghana Investment Promotion Center, GIPC. Your Excellency, Mr. Christoph Retzlaff, German Ambassador to Ghana. Your Excellencies, Ambassadors to Ghana, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Mr. Stephen Entry, Ghana German Economic Association, development partners, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the World Bank Group, I would like to welcome you to our office and to the Germany-Ghana Investor Forum organized under the G20 Compact with Africa. Thank you for taking the time to participate in this unique event to add your voice to the discussion on enhancing Ghana's growth by supporting the automotive, agriculture, and fintech sectors. As country manager of the International Finance Corporation, IFC, the member of the World Bank Group dedicated to private sector development, I'm particularly happy to see that more and more the debate within the development community is focusing on how to harness the potential of the private sector in addressing development challenges. This is a major shift and a sign of the times. The key premise of the G20 Compact with Africa is that countries that maintain macroeconomic stability and promote investor-friendly business environments will attract increased private sector investment. So we're pleased to be working closely with Ghana and of course with the 10 other governments under the Compact to design business regulations using best practice from around the world to improve regulatory delivery and make it easier and more predictable to do business in Ghana. We also assist in attracting, retaining, and maximizing spillovers of foreign direct investment for the local economy. We, of course, also hope to play an important role in the financing of projects with Ghanaian and German companies that emerged from the Compact with Africa initiative. We have had a long history with both countries, and we look forward to continuing this relationship. Ghana offers great potential in agriculture and also becoming an automotive hub to the growing West African market. It also has one of the most developed and dynamic fintech industries on the continent. Also, the government of Ghana is committed to undertaking reforms and policy shifts that will translate into sustainable growth for all these sectors. So we look forward to a frank and productive discussion and moving forward with our shared aspiration to contribute to Ghana's growth. And all this is done in a way that gives ample opportunity for foreign and domestic investors, large and small, to grow and prosper. In closing, I would like to thank our partners in hosting this event, GIPC, Asset, and of course the Ministry of Finance. With that, I'd like to invite Yofi Grant, CEO of Ghana Investment Promotion Center, to say a few words. Thank you.
First, I'd like to say a very warm welcome to all of you, standing on all previous protocols. And to our friends from Europe, Guten Morgen, Buongiorno, and Bonjour to our French people. And to, first of all, I would like to say this is a very interesting format that we have today here, because a similar event is taking place in Berlin as we speak. It's parallel, so I'm sure you see it on the screen as we go along. But I think it's also very instructive as to where Ghana is today. A new government came into power in 2017 and ushered in a new level of confidence of elevating the discourse on how to move our economy forward. We had two very auspicious goals. First, to be the best place to do business in Africa, but also as a hub for West Africa. And accordingly, many of the policies that we put in there reflect that thinking. But going beyond that too, we recognize that there seems to be a lot of changes in the global economy, whether it's from Brexit, whether it's from the American view of looking inward, relationships with the Belt and Road initiative in China. And so the world itself is forming new relationships. And for us in Ghana, a firm relationship with the G20 is also very positive for us in moving our economy forward. And we do embrace that. And so we are very happy to co-host this event with the Asset and the Ministry of Finance, and to form new relationships with the opportunities that we have. Ghana is ready for business. Ghana has set itself as a country that is going to move beyond aid, and is going to do that with significant partnerships from people who believe that they have a stake in what we do. And we have a stake in what they do as well. And a Ghana beyond aid means a wise society, to pen the words of my Minister of Finance. A wise society being a wealthy society that is inclusive and sustainable, with an empowered people to take the reins of moving the economy in their hands in significant partnerships with foreign direct investment and local direct investment as well. And so as we form our policies, these are all the networks that we build, bringing together a lattice that forms a strong background on which the economy will grow. I must also borrow the words of my Minister of Finance to say that Ghana has gone on a fiscal consolidation program that has brought about some macroeconomic stability. And we build that the foundations of our Ghana Beyond Aid is an irreversible, sustainable, should I say, stability in the economy that will also bolster growth. And we have seen that growth manifest in our first year in government. And like I said, it's going to be irreversible and sustainable by doing the right things the right way, but ensuring that at the end of it all, we have a system that will create wealth for our indigents and create great relationships. For us at GIPC, investment is not a one-time event. It's a relationship. And so we will keep talking to our partners, and we will listen to your concerns and keep working together to make sure that we have mutual benefit. We would therefore like to say a warm welcome, and let's have a great day today. Thank you very much.
Can we now call on the president of the Ghanaian German Economic Association, Stephen Entry, to shed some light on the role of GGEA?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me also observe all the appropriate protocols in respect to acknowledging everybody who's here. And also thank the organizers, ACET, the GIPC, and of course the IFC for putting this program together. I can tell you that members of the Ghanaian German Economic Association, which includes a sizable number of the German companies who operate in Ghana, are very grateful for this type of enterprise. I think we see this as a way for all of us to level up and see our way forward as a business entity operating in this environment. I think undoubtedly, since we're talking about the G20 Compact, as business operators in Ghana, we see the G20, Compact as a win-win situation for businesses. What is the Compact? And really, how is it going to impact business? The Compact, really, in a nutshell, really is a set of principles, a set of commitments that governments take to implement policies to really liberalize and sanitize the business environment. That will make it possible for business operators to operate essentially well and also to attract, importantly, partnership in the form of FDIs. And so even without this compact, it made sense for us as a country to have embarked on this journey. But signing this compact also then places a certain obligations, certain commitments on governments for us as business entities, as business operators, to be able to function in an environment where these normal impediments that we come across, whether it's licensing, whether it's clearance, etc., be able to eliminate it. So as we meet here to take a look at the compact and how it's supposed to operate, how it's supposed to work, business entities, whether they're members of our organization or across board, all businesses should have an interest. And I think this dialogue comes in at a very opportune time for us to take a look at it, assess it, and importantly, offer suggestions on the way forward. So in the end, businesses can operate in an environment where we are free, restrictions and impediments are removed from our way. I wish you all wonderful deliberations for the day, and thank you very much. Thank you, organizers, again.
Thank you very much to our three speakers for the warm welcome, for setting the scene in terms of what investment can achieve for Ghana, and also for discussing the impact, the potential impact of the compact with Africa. And the good news is that we have finished this session early. We have more than 10 minutes before we link up, before we go live and link up with Berlin. So unless somebody wants to ask questions, and we have 10 minutes to do that, we'll show a video on investment in Ghana. Would anybody like to speak, to share anything, to ask any questions of the speakers before we show the video? Ambassador Christoph Retzler would like to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Ministers. It's my pleasure to fill the 10 minutes before now. Thank you very much. This is exciting. I will be very brief. This is exciting as far as I can see. This is the first time we have an investors conference in the framework of the G20 Compact with Africa. And I remember very well when Germany, as the presidency of the G20, launched this initiative in June 2017, there were a lot of hopes that this might attract investment to the compact countries. We have now 11 compact countries in Africa. Ghana is one among them. And it's good to say and fair to say that Ghana certainly is a front runner in this compact with Africa thing. We took stock of the compact initiative a couple of weeks ago when we had the German Ghanaian Business Forum when Chancellor Merkel was here. And we came to the conclusion that it was a good start for the Compact Initiative. The Compact Initiative has generated a lot of interest for Ghana and for the Compact countries. But what is missing and where we have to become better are two things. We have to better bring in private business in the whole process, and we would like to see a strengthened and increased engagement by other Sorry. Oh, okay, thank you very much. I think that's about telling me I spoke too long. So the second point that we would see, would like to see improved is engagement by other G20 countries in this framework, and also by non-G20 countries. I see my Norwegian colleague here, and Norway, for example, is very active in supporting this compact with Africa, and this thing I think is a good example. Thank you very much for this. Very briefly on the situation in Ghana, it's not my job as the German ambassador to highlight the opportunities in Ghana. It's the job of the Ghanaian government and the Ghana Investment Council. But I think it's fair enough to say that Ghana has embarked on a very ambitious journey with an ambitious modernization and industrialization program. And this ambitious vision, Ghana Beyond Aid, opens up a lot of new opportunities for business in different sectors, in finance, in agriculture, in automotive. These are the topics we will discuss today. And I would like to call on the German companies to further look to Ghana and to see the opportunities, not only see the challenges, but see the huge opportunities and come and invest here in Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador, very much for those impromptu remarks. Okay. All right. I'm informed that Berlin is now ready. We can now link up with Berlin for the first joint session, which is the formal opening. Hello, Berlin. How do we know when?
Will be one of the items that we will have to work on in order to get them to find their partners on both sides. And I would like to give Your Excellency still an opportunity to adding an aspect that you feel that you would like to stress or point out following the conversations that we had, as we are going to come to an end of our session. And we need to punctually start then the next event, which will be a jointly broadcasted between Accra and here.
Just a 1 minute addition to the question by Professor Yanka regarding communications from government levels or the authorities there, which is to add that aside the pocket information that's been provided, GIPC and Free Zones Board will soon come to Germany on a roadshow within the next 4 weeks to talk more about what they can do between Ghana and Germany. So just a small addition. We'll let you know more when it's ready.
Thank you so much, Her Excellency. I'm encouraging the audience who I know that there were still several questions that you would like to raise. Don't forget your questions and please ask them as I'm closing this panel for now, but there will be opportunities to talk to the speakers at a later point in time. And I would very much like to thank all of you for your contributions, for your perspectives of sharing a perspective of prosperity to some degree. It will take time, it will take efforts to make it happen, to implement it. And I would certainly like to also want to clap our hands for thanking our speakers for this really great discussion. Thank you so much. So with that, I'd like to get the signal on how we are going to then connect to the joint session. And 2 minutes. First of all, thank you. Excellent. Thank you so much. Could I kindly ask the panelists to join me on stage? And as soon as they are here, I would then like to begin. Excellencies, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to welcome all of you this morning to the Germany-Ghana Investors Forum, a landmark event to foster dialogue, to exchange business ideas, to discuss investment opportunities and to build relationships with the objective of increasing awareness of investment opportunities in Ghana. To this end, we have an exciting agenda with 3 panels focusing on industry sectors, automotive, agribusiness, and financial technology. And we also have an impressive number of distinguished speakers. Allow me to briefly introduce myself. My name is Carsten Völster. I'm IFC's country manager for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, based in Frankfurt. It is a pleasure for IFC to host today's Germany-Ghana Investors Forum in Berlin and Accra. International Finance Corporation, as part of the World Bank Group, is the largest multilateral development finance institution investing and advising globally in supporting the private sector in emerging markets. Let me also note that this event would not have been possible without the strong support of the governments of Germany, Ghana, and Norway. This is the first G20 Compact with Africa Investors Forum, where a conference is held on 2 continents and connected via video technology that enables an interactive dialogue between panelists participating from multiple cities. It allows us to have discussions locally and jointly and to exchange views from a German and a Ghanaian perspective, to attract investors and to make more investments happen. It also saves us travel time and costs to establish an effective dialogue. As the Germany-Ghana Investors Forum is streamed on the web, I am herewith welcoming all those who are following these discussions from their office, the comfort of home, or otherwise. And I hope they will benefit from this event as much as those attending the conference locations here in Berlin and Accra. Finally, the event will be recorded and posted on the web so that the dialogue will carry on even after today's event in Accra and Berlin. We expect this day to be a prototype for future similar events connecting other G20 countries with the currently increasing awareness of and attract private sector investment to their countries. It is my pleasure now to welcome Chancellor Angela Merkel with her welcome and opening statement addressing this forum here in Berlin and Accra, and also all those following this event on the Internet.
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, vor kurzem war ich in Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal und Algerien zu Gast. Diese Reise hat mir einmal mehr bestätigt, Afrika ist innovativ, Afrika hat Zukunftsmärkte und große Entwicklungschancen. Ghana zum Beispiel beeindruckt mit einer regen Start-up-Szene und einer beachtlichen Wirtschaftsdynamik. Und Ghana weiß, wohin es will. Es will ein starkes Land werden, das keiner Entwicklungshilfe mehr bedarf. Deutschland will Ghana auf diesem Weg begleiten. Besonderer Ausdruck dessen ist das Deutsch-Ghanaische Investorenforum. Es freut mich, dass die Regierung Ghanas das Forum mit der Internationalen Finanzcorporation der Weltbank ausrichtet. Wie können wir Investitionen fördern und Arbeitsplätze schaffen? Wie können wir der jungen Bevölkerung in Ghana Perspektiven bieten? Wie können wir die wirtschaftliche Entwicklung verstetigen? Darüber werden die Teilnehmer des Investorenforums diskutieren. Daran zeigt sich, Ghana und Deutschland verbindet nicht nur eine enge Handelspartnerschaft. Wir verstehen uns auch als Reform- und Investitionspartner. Wir wollen gemeinsam zum Beispiel erneuerbare Energien weiter voranbringen oder im Bereich der Informationstechnologien enger zusammenarbeiten. Unsere Partnerschaft baut auf dem G20 Compact with Africa auf. Es geht uns um bessere Rahmenbedingungen für private Investitionen, um Wachstum und Beschäftigung in Afrika zu schaffen. Daher danke ich allen, die sich in Ghana hierfür stark machen. Mein besonderer Dank gilt den Gastgebern der Konferenz. Ich grüße Sie und alle, die am Forum teilnehmen. Auch im Namen der Bundesregierung wünsche ich Ihnen erfolgreiche und gewinnbringende Gespräche.
I thank Chancellor Merkel for her kind welcome and opening remarks, highlighting the objective to create better conditions for private sector investments to generate growth and employment in Africa. And now I would like to hand over to Accra.
I commend the organizers of the G20 Compact with Africa, Germany, Ghana Investors Forum for the brilliance of this initiative. Those of you who come from beyond our shores are welcome amongst the people who pride themselves on their sense of hospitality. Akwaba is our word of welcome. And to those watching in Berlin, Germany, I send you warm greetings from the people of Ghana. Since becoming president of Ghana some 21 months ago, I've been advocating for a relationship with the rest of the world based on trade and investment cooperation. For me, it is the most effective way to guarantee progress and prosperity for the mass of Ghanaians and enhance their standards of living. That is why I was particularly delighted with the decision taken by the government of the German Chancellor, Frau Angela Merkel, to align its traditional development support to that of my government's vision of Ghana beyond aid. Germany's presidency of the G20, which led to the creation of the G20 Compact with Africa, is ensuring more private sector investments to Ghana and other Africa Compact countries. Ghana is keen on attracting foreign direct investments to exploit our country's great endowment of natural resources on mutually satisfactory terms. We are creating a resilient and robust economy, and the macroeconomic indices at the halfway point of my term of office are pointing in the right direction, a direction that will maintain so that we can provide the stability to stimulate investments. We've also taken steps to formalize the Ghanaian economy, and in the process we aim to establish the most business-friendly economy in Africa to enable the private sector to thrive. Our modest successes in making progress in these areas are being recognized by the global business community that is now eager to engage with Ghana. I assure the investor community that Ghana is a haven of peace, security, and stability, where the rule of law works. Investments are protected in fact and in law. I thank the organizers for this opportunity and wish you productive deliberations in Accra and Berlin throughout the course of this forum.
I would like to thank President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo for assuring the investors community that investments are protected and in fact and in law. As the next speaker, I am pleased to announce Dr. Jim Yong Kim, President of the World Bank Group.
Good morning, Accra and Berlin. I'd like to thank President Akufo-Addo for co-hosting this Investors Forum and thank all of the participants from Ghana and Germany who made it possible. 18 months ago, under Germany's leadership, the G20 launched the Compact with Africa to increase private sector investment across the continent. These investments will help power job creation, strengthen economies, and allow more people to share in the growing prosperity. The World Bank Group, International Monetary Fund, and African Development Bank are helping drive this initiative by helping compact countries enact critical reforms that will attract private sector investment. As compact countries implement these reforms, the G20 is encouraging major firms to identify investment opportunities in those countries. This forum can help bring those investments to a whole new level. The Compact with Africa is a multi-year effort, but we're already starting to see results. Ghana has led the way with many reforms, working to reduce public debt, streamline construction permitting, and modernize the public-private investment framework. Senegal is improving the reliability of its power grid and making it easier to resolve commercial disputes. Egypt has strengthened its fiscal position and cut the average time to attain industrial licenses from 2 years to 30 days. On the investment side, Rwanda, in close partnership with IFC, our private sector arm, is working with a global construction firm to develop 10,000 affordable housing units. Norway's Norfund has opened an office in Accra with plans to invest in local companies in the clean energy, finance, and agribusiness sectors. And in Côte d'Ivoire, the private sector is seeking to invest in the gas, power, low-cost housing, and cashew production sectors. The World Bank Group is currently operating on the ground in all 11 compact countries, helping identify and implement reforms and linking interested investors with promising opportunities. IFC invested nearly $800 million in compact countries, with an additional mobilization of just over $700 million. IDA, our fund for the poorest countries, will provide nearly $45 billion in the next 3 years in sub-Saharan Africa, including for 8 compact countries. And our Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, MIGA, which specializes in political risk insurance and credit enhancement, expects to issue roughly $1.5 billion in guarantee coverage in sub-Saharan Africa this year alone. The Compact with Africa is a model for how governments, the private sector, international organizations, and other development partners can join forces to find win-win opportunities, ones that drive economic growth and reduce poverty while offering strong economic returns for investors. We will continue working with all of the Compact countries to make win-win solutions a reality. I'd like to thank Chancellor Merkel for her leadership and commitment. Her vision has driven the Compact with Africa from the beginning. The Compact is helping show the world that Africa is a great development opportunity, and I'm excited about what we're doing and what we will continue to do together across the continent. Thank you for participating in this forum. I look forward to hearing about the results.
I thank President Jim Kim of the World Bank Group for pointing at the G20 Compact initiative as a platform for closer collaboration between governments, international organizations, the private sector, and other development institutions to join forces to find win-win opportunities. I would like to turn once more to Accra for the next speaker.
I'm now very privileged to call on Ghana's Finance Minister, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, to give his keynote speech. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you indeed, and good morning to you all. It's good to be here. So we are on? Yep. Good morning, dear participants. Those of you who have kindly joined us from Berlin, a warm virtual welcome to Ghana, Akwaba, as we say it here. It is a real honor to see such a great collection of investors and captains of industry, agribusiness, and fintech drawn together by your interests in Ghana. And let me thank the IFC and the World Bank Group, German ambassador, for putting this together. It is indeed exciting times, as President Kim said. Who would have thought only a few years ago that policymakers and investors sitting in Accra will be seen and talking to their counterparts sitting in Berlin and live about investment opportunities in Ghana. The wonders of modern technology, the vision of our leaders, and how far we have come in terms of our own policy orientation. The government of President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo believes firmly in a private sector-led economy, and we are determined to put in place the necessary policy and institutional environment to harness technology wherever possible in order to make Ghana a super attractive place for business and a leading destination for private investors, particularly from Germany. Indeed, we aim to make Ghana the regional hub for business. To start off, I'd like to express my gratitude to Her Excellency Dr. Angela Merkel, Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, to His Excellency, our President, Nana Akufo-Addo, and to Dr. Jim Kim, President of the World Bank Group, for the inspiring messages that we just heard. It is a true testament to their vision and commitment to a new world order. I'm happy that these leaders set aside time in their crowded schedules to record these messages of goodwill to encourage Ghana-German investment promotion. Germany and the World Bank have been long-standing friends of Ghana, and that their leaders will support this event in this way is excellent testimony to their care and our friendship. Our president has in his message clearly set out the motivation and context that make an event such as today's very seminal for us in Ghana. As he said, Ghana Beyond Aid is a vision that drives us. It is a vision that sees Ghana developing very rapidly to become a prosperous country that does not depend on aid, a country with a globally competitive economy whose relations with other countries are based on trade investment, and political cooperation as respectful partners going forward. Key to our rapid journey to a Ghana beyond aid are efficient use of resources and critical and adequate private investment from both domestic and foreign investors to power our rapid economic growth and to create productive jobs. We need this to sustain a double-digit growth for the next decade. That is why we are here today. For us, it is indeed heartening that independently, our longtime friend, Germany, and her government under Chancellor Merkel is thinking of German-African cooperation along the same lines as the Ghana Beyond Aid vision, with investment for growth, particularly for the private businesses at the center. As you all know, just over a month ago, Ghana was delighted to host the Chancellor here in Accra for a short but a very productive visit. During that visit, we focused our discussions on deepening the already strong German-Ghanaian cooperation and elevating the role played by German and Ghanaian private investors and businesses in their relationship. We agreed to explore opportunities for both official Germany and German businesses to play significant and catalytic roles in driving the Ghana Beyond Aid vision. Indeed, it was agreed that Germany will support us to improve our export competitiveness by helping strengthen our capacity to meet EU phytosanitary and other requirements. And the Chancellor also indicated that her government is ready to support technical and vocational training in agriculture, similar to what Germany is currently offering in renewable energy, and to clearly demonstrate the direction of the new relationship. An agreement between Ghana and Volkswagen to establish a Volkswagen assembly plant in Ghana was announced during the Chancellor's visit. We also agreed to strengthen our special export zones, and in addition, there was a commitment to strengthen the financial sector, especially in development banking, with the support of KfW. My colleague, Minister Muller, actually said that his vision was to see Ghana to become the Bavaria of West Africa. We are very fortunate that through the visionary leadership of Chancellor Merkel, we already have in the Compact for Africa an institutional vehicle to pursue this new and enhanced Ghana-German cooperation with private investment strongly at the center. Ghana is happy to be one of the 11 countries invited to join the CWA. Indeed, right from the beginning of our membership in the CWA, we have taken an active and leading role in bringing together the other Compact of Africa countries and Germany together in order to advance progress on the initiative. In September 2017, we convened a CWA Ministers of Finance meeting in Accra and followed it up a month later in Washington, D.C. with a side meeting for the ministers during the World Bank IMF annual meeting in October 2017. And in April 2018, Ghana, assisted by the IMF and the Africa Center for Economic Transformation ASSET, hosted a CWA conference countries peer learning event on domestic resource mobilization. Domestically, we are pushing ahead with reforms in our laws and institutions to implement our CWA commitments and to make Ghana a super attractive place for doing business. Important efforts in this regard include our Companies Code now being in Parliament, good progress in revising the GIPC law, the launching of the new public investment management system last month, systematic efforts to improve our doing business ranking such that by 2020, we expect Ghana to be in the top rankings. Investment and improvements in infrastructure and digitization of land registration and interoperability of payment systems. In addition to the progress that we are making on these specific business environment reforms, we have made significant progress in improving the macroeconomic and financial policy environment so vital for the overall climate of doing business. Here are a few examples of the progress we have made in this regard. A significant increase in the real GDP growth from 3.7% in 2016 to 8.5% in 2017. Reduction of the fiscal deficit from 9.3% of GDP in 2016 to 5.9% in 2017, and on course for 4.5% at the end of this year. Reduction in inflation from 15.4% to currently 9.9%. Improvement in the external accounts with trade surplus of 2.6% of GDP compared to a deficit of 8.3% in 2018. Reduction in the public debt to below 70% to 69.8%. Strong actions by the Bank of Ghana to strengthen the financial sector. And recently, a ratings upgrade for the first time in a decade by Standard & Poor from B- negative outlook to a B with a stable outlook. So we are doing a bit, though there's much to do in this long journey of a Ghana Beyond Aid to secure the peace, security, and stability that our president referred to. I am very happy about the sectors chosen as areas of focus for this event: agriculture, automotive, manufacturing, and fintech. We see each of them as key potential drivers for our economic growth and transformation, and for creating the productive job for our expanding and increasingly educated youth population. I have already mentioned the agreement with Volkswagen for an assembly plant in Ghana. We also are going to look in our agriculture area, and the minister later today will talk about it. Also in the One District, One Factory program, Minister Hunkan Lindsay here will see us through during the afternoon. It is the growing middle class and mostly young urban population promises long-term market growth, and its geographic location makes it a logical hub for auto manufacturing in West Africa, enabling new investors to take advantage of in-country and sub-regional investment opportunities. Again, you'll hear much later from the Minister of Trade. Indeed, we hope that Volkswagen's agreement is the beginning of a wave of German FDI, not only in the automotive sector, but in manufacturing in general. To this end, in addition to the improvements in the business and macroeconomic environment that I've already talked about, we are also stepping up efforts with the help of Germany to improve and expand our technical and vocational education and training institutions in order to ensure the availability of the skills appropriate to the requirement of investors in the manufacturing sector. I see great opportunities in the fintech sector in Ghana. Already Ghana's fintech industry is now one of the most developed in sub-Saharan Africa in reach and sophistication. The use of mobile money has developed very rapidly, with registered accounts shooting up from 2 million in June 2012 to 10 million in 2017. In fact, mobile money transactions have moved from about 78 billion Ghana cedis to over 155 billion Ghana cedis, enabling the transfer of funds across different networks and platforms. With an almost 70% internet penetration and growing, an open and dynamic financial sector, and a growing pool of young and technically savvy local actors, the potential is really high for the fintech industry. My colleague, the Honorable Deputy Minister for Finance, will say more on fintech later today. Ladies and gentlemen, I am excited about this event. I wish I could be here all day, but unfortunately, I can't, since today is a cabinet day. I hope your deliberation results in some concrete investment ideas and potential partnership worthy of further follow-up, especially as we go to Berlin later on this month. And I look forward to reading the summary and conclusions of your deliberations. My best wishes to you for the rest of the day. Lastly, let me again express my sincere gratitude to the organizers of this event, the World Bank IFC, the German Cooperation Ministry, the G20 Compact of Africa, KfW, and other German organizations, the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the GIPC, ASSET. My sincere thanks to you all. My expectation is that this is just the beginning of our collaboration to promote German-Ghanaian investment, and that we'll be working on other events and initiatives together in the future. We hope to see you in Germany at the end of the month. Thank you so much for your kind invitation. God bless you, and Ayiko.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister Ofori-Atta, for your very exciting introductory speech, pointing at Ghana's vision to become beyond aid and to become a globally competitive country based on trade, investment, political cooperation, and setting skills for those that are looking for jobs. Finally, I would like to welcome Minister Olaf Scholz from the Federal Ministry of Finance of Germany to address the forum.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the G20 Compact with Africa Ghana Investor Forum in Berlin and Accra. This forum is the first in a series of conferences that the International Finance Corporation will organize in order to put the Compact with Africa into practice. And it is an important event in the close and long-standing partnership between our two countries, Ghana and Germany. In a globalized world, the G20 must look beyond its membership. This is what the Compact with Africa does. It is a cooperation as equals between African countries, the G20 partners and international organizations. We all know a prospering Africa is essential to achieve the aim of worldwide sustainable growth and stability. With their young and growing population, African countries offer great economic potential. At the same time, these young and talented men and women strive for a secure future for themselves and their families in their countries. Experience from Europe, America and Asia shows the private sector is a key driver of economic development. If we want to make a difference, we need to focus on our policies, both national and multilateral, more on engaging the private sector. Compact countries have improved the attractiveness of their markets for private investors. I strongly encourage German and European companies to invest more in promising projects. I'm particularly pleased that Ghana is the host country of this first IFC Investor Forum in the Compact process. Ghana is not only a close partner of Germany and an interesting investment destination for German companies, as shown during Chancellor Merkel's recent visit with a high-level business delegation. Ghana was also one of the first countries to sign on the G20 Compact with Africa, and it remains very committed to its reform agenda aiming at Ghana beyond aid. Debt sustainability, a reliable legal system, functioning and stable financial markets, to name just a few elements, are important preconditions for attracting private investment. The Ghanaian government has already achieved a great deal in these and other fields, and it is working to achieve more. Here you can count on German support. We will continue our regular exchange with our African partners in order to maintain reform momentum and economic growth. And we will sharpen our instruments with a focus on compact countries, private investment and small and medium-sized companies. Today's Investor Forum will help to match promising business opportunities with investors and companies both from within the country and abroad. I thank the International Finance Corporation and the Ghanaian government for organizing this event, and I wish all participants a successful conference.
Thank you, Minister Scholz, for keeping the G20 Compact with Africa initiative as a high priority to sustain development in the compact countries and support private sector investments as a key driver for economic development. I kindly ask all of you to join me in a round of applause for our honorable speakers this morning. Without any further ado, I would like to now move on to the first panel session covering the automotive and manufacturing sectors. And for that, I'm turning to Accra.
Thank you very much. Und man sagt, guten Morgen, Berlin. Ich heiße Dede Amano-Wilkes. Ich bin die Director of Communications für die African Center for Economic Transformation. Ich hoffe, dass alles geht gut in Berlin. Vielen Dank. And so now, as we move into the first of our 3 thematic sessions, it is my honor to introduce Ghana's Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Honorable Robert Ahomka Lindsay, who will give the first of the joint introductory keynotes. Deputy Minister, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody here this morning, and guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren, and for those in Berlin. Honorable Minister of Finance, His Excellency German's Ambassador to Ghana, His Excellency Norwegian Ambassador to Ghana, the CEO of the GIPC, head of IFC Group here in Ghana, ladies and gentlemen, our colleagues in Berlin, it is a true honor today to be with you here today to start the discussion on the automotive industry and the manufacturing in general. Before I start my contribution, let me first thank the organizers of this great initiative. As the Honorable Minister says, technology is a wonderful thing and we should all embrace it. Being our colleagues in the IFC, the G20 Compact, the German government, the Norwegian government, the German Foreign Ministry, Foreign German Cooperation Ministry, for putting together this discussion, which is a core, and I've also noticed our colleagues from the Embassy of Turkey. Welcome, Ambassador. Putting together this discussion, which is crucial as Ghana seeks to, under our new president, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, carve its direction, its plans as it moves forward. At the core of that is the subject matter of this first interaction, the automotive industry, and particularly the manufacturing sector. If you look at post-independence Ghana and, in effect, our industry, it's been characterized by what, in effect, we inherited in 1957, which is a system of government, system of production, which is designed towards preparation of raw materials that led to industrial transformation outside Ghana and then importation of goods. It's quite simply put, that model is not working for Ghana today of 30-odd million people. It's not has the capacity or the capability to create enough jobs and allow us to achieve the objectives that we set ourselves as a country. As we celebrated 60 years post-independence, it's become very evident, as elaborated by our Excellency, our President, that business as usual just will not work. We need to change the very structure, the nature, and the very essence of how we see ourselves going forward. Hence, Ghana Beyond Aid and all the contributory factor to that vision. Over the last decade or so, our businesses have gone through a tough challenge, and as our Minister of Finance very clearly elaborated, we have taken steps in the last 20 or so months to ensure that we arrested very quickly and set the framework that will allow us to achieve some of the objectives that we're looking for. He's mentioned it, so I will not repeat those areas. Suffice us to say, we know that it is a necessary precondition for what we need and what we want to have that structure, that stability, that predictability in going forward. Minister of Finance and your team, I echo on that. And we within trade industry see that as a prerequisite for our work as we're going forward, particularly in the industrial transformation agenda as set out by our president. This current administration has a very clear focus. The focus that is based on delivery, based on implementation, and based on practical solutions, taking the best the world has to offer and providing that here in Ghana. We're not seeking to reinvent the wheel. We simply want to be part of the wheel. We want to ensure that we play our role in that process. If you look at our industrial sector today, it is not surprising that it's not where we want to be. We understand that it is through the private sector-led initiative that this will change. To that extent, as was so clearly illustrated by the recent visit of the Chancellor of Germany, if you looked at the content of that dialogue, it is about the industrial transformation, how we make Ghana build opportunity for wealth for Ghanaians so that they can take their rightful place in the world of countries and of people. In the Ministry of Trade and Industry, we've taken on our mandate, and within that we have 10 key pillars that we've sought to drive as part of our contribution to industrial transformation of Ghana. At the crux of that is manufacturing, and one of the key aspects of manufacturing is the automobile industry. So whether we are talking about sectors such as the iron and steel, an integrated aluminium industry, pharmaceutical industry, industrial salt, manufacture of machine parts, textiles and garments, and of course, vehicle assembly, we understand that it's through the value chain, it is through ensuring that our SMEs played the key role in that value chain and ensuring that we bring the best the world has to offer to Ghana that will allow us to do that. Interestingly, Ghana started assembling vehicles in 1953. It was actually Bedford, and I recently found a video of that. It was one of the first industries that our British friends, as we were preparing for independence, had brought that in. In the 70s and 80s, we're assembling brands such as Boafo and Neoplan, but all these plants are no more operational, even though the facilities, the physical facilities, are still evident as you look around the country. In recent years, one of our own, Apostle Safo, has gradually been making his own inroads into some of these areas with his Kantanka brand of vehicles. However, it is clear that nowhere near are we able to achieve that objective of the automobile assembly as a key part of our industrial strategy based on him alone, but building his capacity and working with international partners. Let's look at some of the numbers. In 2016, Ghana imported $1.65 billion worth of automobile vehicles. In 2017, it went slightly up to $1.67 billion. We exported close to 6 million, but most of those exports in 2016 was really transshipment. So neighboring countries shipping it through Ghana and then going forward. Clearly, what you can see is a one-way flow. But that one-way flow also offers opportunity. And that opportunity is why it is that we're engaging in this dialogue. But as we discuss this dialogue of Ghana of 30 million people, our opportunity is not just the 30 million. It is a 300-odd million within the economic community of West African state. As our minister says, we want to be the hub. We want to position ourselves as the hub. And that is why we're addressing our business regulation to make us a very attractive destination for a hub. And so as we talk to those in the automobile industry, and particularly in the value chain, please don't look just at the 30. Look at the 300-odd million. Look at the young population. Look at the level of imports currently being done. That shows that the purchasing capacity is there. The opportunity is clear for investment. So as we look at that opportunity. Look at the Continental Free Trade Agreement of Africa. Look at being closer to your customers and what it is that you're seeking to do. So ladies and gentlemen, the discussion about manufacturing, and particularly the automobile industry, is not an exercise in academics. Manufacturing industrial transformation, dare we say it, as I look at the German model, is at the crux of your industrial success. Ghana does not seek to be any different. Ghana seeks to replicate that in our own time frame and in our own lifestyle, but based on the best the world has to offer. We learn, adapt, and implement it to the needs of the country. Before I conclude my remarks today, let me again commend the organizers. I look forward to a robust dialogue, and as we speak, let's put some of those perceptions aside. Those perceptions being the market is not there. If we're importing $1.6 billion of it, the market is there. Let's put aside the viewpoint that Ghana or Africa is not focused on its future. It is clear, has been clearly spelled out by our president and our minister, the future is not a question of choice. It's a question of direction that we want to go. So let's look at the opportunities there, how we bring practical solutions, particularly in our investors in Germany, how we help you, help us, the win-win scenario opportunity for the manufacturing and automobile sectors. Ladies and gentlemen, I really look forward to our discussion. And again, thank you very much for offering us this opportunity.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Minister, for those very encouraging insights and remarks about the potential of Ghana's automotive industry and the market. I understand that we're now separating from Berlin to start 2 local sessions. We now say farewell to Honourable Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Thank you very much for joining us, Honourable Minister. Thank you.
So with any further ado, I would like to then start our local discussion, and I'm turning first to my right to Mr. Stefan Siegemund with the German Energy Agency. As the automotive and the energy industry sectors tend to move closer one to another, what consequences should one expect this to have for Africa, or more specifically for Ghana, particularly when you look at a potentially accelerated transition from traditional to electric vehicles?
Yes, I mean, from our point of view, there are more 3 consequences and challenges. The first is, of course, the production. The second are the cars which are in the market. And the third thing is the fuels which are provided for the transport sector.
For today's
so
panel session
first, the production, I guess,
we
have to see in the future that the production is energy efficient, and that it will become, it's a whole supply chain, more energy efficient.
Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry for the Republic of Ghana. I would also like to invite Mr. Frederick Mawson, who is the Managing Director of Scania West Africa. And Mr. George Asamoah Mankwa, President of the Swami Magazine Industrial Development Organization. And our final panelists, Mr. Edward Brown, Senior Director for Research and Policy Advisory at the African Center for Economic Transformation. Yes, let me sit in the middle. Sure. Yeah, let me pick them. Yeah, you can sit on this side.
We exchange a few emails. Handing it to everybody.
Okay, so before we get into the panel discussion, just a few words. The automotive sector ranks very high amongst the various manufacturing subsectors in terms of innovation, product and process sophistication, and multiplier effects on both GDP and jobs. Original equipment manufacturers, or OEMs, typically lead this industry, but success critically depends on the co-location of significant suppliers and the development of locally based, cost-competitive supplier industries and firms. Connecting local companies, including SMEs, to the supply chain of large multinational companies is one way to enhance the development impact of projects. IFC's newly rolled out framework for assessing the development impact of manufacturing projects has specifically identified strong linkages to domestic companies as one of the core outcomes for assessing the development impact of manufacturing projects. So with that, the first question is going to go to Frederick. Frederick, one of your ambitions as Scania is to build a world-class sales and service network here in West Africa. Please tell us, in your work here in Ghana, what types of local companies do you work with? And what has been your experience so far? Where do you see opportunities to get into more value-added services with these types of companies?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to share my experiences here. Well, I represent Scania, which is part of the Traton Group, which is in turn part of the VW Group of Germany. We do heavy trucks and buses since 127 years back. Unfortunately, we've only been in Ghana in our own presence for the past 4 years. But I would like to start with saying that that was a mistake not coming earlier. Because we see a lot of opportunities. We see a lot of possibilities for the future. There are some constraints, so it's very good these are addressed and that we can look into that. Today, what we are trying to do is to go from being a vehicle manufacturer also to be more of a transport solution provider. And I think that's also a trend you see in industry today, that you try to offer a wider package, not only a vehicle, but also training of drivers, technicians, and other staff that you need to keep your vehicle fleet in a good order. Assuring the maintenance during the lifetime of the vehicle, not letting customers down, being without spare parts, being without support after a short while. All our vehicles today, this is not unique for our brand, other manufacturers are doing the same. All vehicles are connected, so you can have a totally different follow-up today of your vehicle fleet than you used to have in the past. This gives us the opportunity to create good partnership with our customers, and we don't see them as customers anymore. We see them as partners, and we want to work together with Ghanaian transporters and other companies running their own transport business to develop the whole transport sector. And it's not just about assembling the vehicle. I think we'll come back to that later on. That's a small part of the activity. The whole value chain, in my view, consists of everything from sourcing the component to the final assembly, but also to running the vehicle during its entire lifetime. And that's maybe where the biggest sweet spot for the industry lies. It's in the lifetime of the vehicle. What we would like to see and what I would call for in Ghana is to have a better enforcement of the rules and regulations so that good actors in the industry are promoted. Yesterday I was blocked going home from work by a truck that broke down on the road. It should not happen, but we see it happen quite often but the rules and regulations are there. It's very much a question of implementation and giving incentives to companies who are trying to do things the right way. We will be there to support them and work alongside the transporters to improve the industry. We did try some manufacturing projects also, and we have that say willingness of doing it, but it requires quite a lot of development of the sector, I would say, to come up to the standards. But I'm sure we'll come back to that later on, so let me not be more than 3 here.
Okay, thank you. You talk about standards. I would like to bring in George now. George, you started as a mechanic in Swami Magazine, and today you are the president of the organization that oversees all these companies and SMEs in the magazine. What kinds of activities do your companies engage in, and how do you support them to partner with companies like Scania to build supply chain activities within the enclave?
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. First of all, let me give you a brief about Swami Magazine. Swami Magazine was named after our colonial masters, where they normally used to keep their magazines, that is their armories. So as soon as we got the independence, the mechanics took over, and then they named the site after the work that they were doing. And then when Kumasi expands, they moved from that particular place to Swami. So when they were going, the name magazine, they took it, and then eventually it becomes Swami Magazine. So that is how we got Swami Magazine. In Swami Magazine, we are over about 200,000 informal mechanics, spare parts dealers that are working within a space of, say, 2 or 3 miles square. The main activity over there is metal fabrication, where we produce trailers, tankers, agricultural components. And then also we are into casting and molding, where we cast some of the spare parts for machines and trucks and where have you, as well as maintenance of trucks and then other maintenance and then repairs of trucks and machines, generators, and also sales of spare parts. Swami Magazine, when we talk about standards, about 40, 50 years ago, because it's just a cluster that formed naturally. We don't have what it takes to formalize as it is now. So we lack of standards. But with partnership with these multinationals, like my brother who's sitting behind me from Scania, I think with continuing education, which is ICT. In fact, about 5-6 years ago, we put up a structure where we train mechanics to learn more about IT so that they can use diagnostic tool to search for faults, and then also work hand in hand with the machines and then the tools that are fixed up with ICT.
That's interesting. Do you have an example of companies in Swami Magazine partnering with large manufacturers to improve standards? Do you recall any examples?
Yes, Smido had already worked with Nimon Ghana Boston Company, Ghana Automotive Limited. We've worked with so many, and then also we work with CO Mine Ghana Limited, a German company who used to import spare parts to Ghana here. Like myself, as a mechanic, I've worked with CO Man for quite 10 years and over. Okay. And then eventually, I established my own manufacturing center, of which about a month or 2 ago, His Excellency commissioned my company, which we manufacturing springs. It is the second company within the West Africa who manufacture springs.
Okay, thank you, George. Very interesting perspective there. So we do have some examples of companies in the Swami Magazine actually partnering with large multinational companies, and we want to see more of that. I would now like to turn it on to Edward. What types of enabling environments will be needed here in Ghana to support the emerging automotive industry? And please contextualize this with regards to the VW announcement.
Thank you, Hassan, and good morning, everyone. I think that already the conversation around this issue has been expounded by the CEO of the new company. What seems to be clear is that if you take the automotive industry generally, and the fact that VW is coming to Ghana, I think perhaps one of the key areas that needs to be looked at from the policy perspective is the whole area of upskilling, providing the necessary technical capabilities for the small and medium-sized enterprises that may be hooked up into the supply chain. Because obviously, Ghana is not going to be manufacturing vehicles per se, but at least where the value add can come is through the supply chain linkages, as Swami is doing, the Swami Magazine people are currently doing. So there are three key areas I think is important. One is the training, upskilling. The second is also the need to provide the patient capital to support the SMEs to grow and provide the needed inputs into the larger enterprises. And of course, the third is in the area of joint ventureships. Since we're talking about the German-Ghana cooperation, and Germany has perhaps one of the best technical training capabilities anywhere, that there is a need for this kind of knowledge transfer and JVs to strengthen the capacity of the local SMEs in order that they can at least hook into the value chain and the supply chain of the companies that are coming into Ghana. So I would hope that at least from the policy perspective, that greater efforts should be focused on technical and vocational education, which would provide the needed skills for the local SMEs to be able to deal with the innovations that are coming. The automotive industry today is becoming much more technological oriented, and the capabilities of the people in Swami magazine, is not necessarily aligned with the evolving demands of the jobs that are going to be there. So I think there's a need for upscaling and providing the necessary capabilities that would enable them to participate in that particular space.
Thank you, Ed. And I think that's an excellent point to bring in the Honorable Minister. What kinds of policies does your ministry have in place now, specifically targeting the automotive sector?
Well, I think all the points have been made, but let me come straight to it. The first one, if I can take the last point that Edward said, which is about training. We know that our mechanics, our team, our colleagues in Swami, as in other places, have the potential just like anybody else. The opportunity is training. So let me go to specifics. So on Monday, we had a meeting at discussions with a new cooperative agreement signed between Ghana, Swiss, German, and one of the key areas that under CODVET is training. So there is a specific program there where we are targeting those that need to be trained to ensure that when Volkswagen comes, our people can also be part of that value chain. Because it's only through that value chain that we'll get some of the benefit. We understand that Volkswagen will be Volkswagen, Scania will be Scania, but you don't make everything that goes into your vehicles. It is part of a value chain, and that is where. So that is a specific opportunity. In terms of capital, we're looking specifically at reorganizing our National Bureau of Small-Scale Industry, and a part of that is risk capital that is targeted towards smaller businesses that can be part of that. Joint venture is a key opportunity for us. So we want to positively encourage both with push and pull activities. Let me explain. Push is where we may have laws that make sure that you have to partner. Pull is where we look to provide specific incentives to make it worth your while to partner. Because we are very clear in understanding that if our SMEs don't become part of that value chain, we lose the very essence of what it is that we're trying to do. And then the scaling up becomes critical. This is a journey. We're not going to do it in the next 12 months, but because we know we have the capacity and capability, we understand that that scaling has to be part of a structured process to ensure that we are part of that automobile industry. Now, here's the good news, I think, just to say, I look at Morocco, what the Renault has done up there. In the decade or so, you look at the significant values of what has happened on the ground. But also, let's look at the vote. We mentioned Volkswagen, but I am aware, for instance, there's a Turkish company that is about to also assemble buses here, Leyland and DAF buses. We are aware of also another Chinese large manufacturing. So what that tells us is that we government have our work cut out. We understand that, but it's up to us to provide those three examples, areas to engage. And the regulation becomes important. If I may just pick up the point that Mr. Frederick made. Regulations are rules, and enforcing them are key. And yes, yesterday you would have heard the Ghana Standards Authority CEO talking about the forcing and enforcing the regulations. And the minute we start in going into the industrial landscape, this becomes key in what we do. We must have standards, because it's through those standards that we will grow our SMEs, and it's through those standards that we will attract investors. And let's be honest, we are putting these standards in place to... Put a kick back here. I think it's... Is it me? Let me turn this off and use this one. Okay. Okay. It is through those standards that we as government must protect Ghanaian consumers. That is the very essence of having those standards and ensuring that we also have become along those value chain. This is a journey. It is a journey that other economies have faced, economies that frankly didn't have as much of a starting point as we do. And as I look at the Chinese 30 years in my lifetime, I look at the Asian tigers. This is clearly a journey we believe we can go. And as government, we must do that and support that.
Thank you.
Sorry, now they've turned you off. You want to use mine?
Okay, let me use yours. Thank you, Honorable Minister. I think, Frederick, that's a good time to bring you in. So what are some of the strategies? Which am I using?
I think we're okay.
What are some of the strategies that Scania is currently using in terms of skills transfer from expatriates to local staff? You had an interesting example about female truck drivers. Please share that example.
Yeah, I'd like to start to say that, first of all, we have a general problem to recruit people, and that is the biggest constraint we have to grow in the region. And our ambition is not only to grow in Ghana, it's to grow across West Africa. So skills, access of good skills is a problem, but I would like to underline that it's not a matter of finding talented people. That we do. We have people queuing outside our offices wanting to have a job, and many of them are very talented. So I would rebound to what the Honourable Minister said. It's a matter of training. It's a matter of training, and we do invest a lot in training, but it's also some old-fashioned perceptions that we would like to break. Some of them is, I'm very happy to hear about your journey from being a mechanic and how you have developed. And I think you would agree to me that you say in the old times, a mechanic was considered to be the dirty guy in the grease pit, who was self-taught. He didn't have any training. Somebody else taught him in his workplace. But it's no longer the case. Today, we need totally different sets of skills. Products are more complicated. Electronics is in there. You need to be customer-oriented. You need to speak foreign languages. You need to be able to read manuals. So we don't even call them mechanics anymore. They're technicians. And a technician needs to be a highly qualified person that has a continuous training also. So we set up our own training school. We call it the WATAR, the West African Transport Academy. This is a partnership together with GIZ from Germany. And we're training 20 young people every year. They come from, they do an initial training at the Government Technical Training Center in Kaneshie. And we give them an additional year of training on heavy commercial vehicles. Out of the 20 that just graduated in August, we employed 7 of them. 3 of the guys had to start to go to Brazil for 3 weeks for an additional training. So they were quite happy about the start of their career. The other one, we had to send to Guinea to work in a mining project there. So it's quite a bright future that lies ahead of them. And 7 out of 20, and we are not the only company who is partnering in this. It's quite a good number of people we employ, and we need them. And we will continue to do the same thing next year. The other project that we've done, that I wanted to share with you, and Hassan, you mentioned about it, it's female drivers. I mean, there's another perception that a woman could not drive a truck, or a woman could not drive a bus, but nothing could be more wrong. So why should you exclude 50% of the candidates from this job? And why should you take away the ones who are more prudent, more responsible, more devoted, which women often are, to the service sector? So we started out a project training women for the ILO bus project here in Accra. And we wanted to recruit 60 and train them, but we had more than 400 that applied. And the biggest problem was to select the 60. We had to take over 70 at the end. And now we're all trained. Some of them have started already. You might have seen some of them driving the buses at the airport. And it goes very well. And I've asked the operator, GAPTA in this case, to do statistics. And I'll be very delighted to come back in a year or two and tell you about their accident rates, their fuel consumption, and their performance, their devotion. And I'm sure it will be better. This I've seen in Stockholm, Berlin, Paris, London, everywhere. There's a big portion of the bus drivers who are women. We just to round up very quickly, we did the same for truck drivers. Some of the reactions we had was that their parents would not allow them to be truck drivers because it's for men. But we managed to talk that out of them. So most of them actually joined the training, and we had 20 ladies graduated as truck drivers, and very soon
very interesting. Because as an economist at IFC, I sure would like to see the results of that study.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I would like to bring George in now. George, where do you see the major skills gaps in the Swami magazine? Quickly, 2 minutes, and then we turn to Ed. How would you describe the current state of preparedness of the Ghanaian worker for the emerging automotive sector jobs? That's George.
Thank you, sir. You see, Swami Magazine Industrial Development Organization, we've already acquired about 1,000 acres of land, purposely to set up Swami Magazine Innovation Model, where we are targeting to train designers. You see, most of our engineers from universities, they can interpret what someone has done, but they cannot do or manufacture their own. That is the challenge that we Ghanaians are facing. Looking at what we've put in place, if our partners, the multinationals, understand us and then support us, put that innovation center, we are going to bring all of them together, of which some of them are going to be research for metals, that is specifically for spare parts, how they would design through computers, design soft copies. And then also within that innovation center, we are going to have patterns, tool and dies, and then also the models. As the former sectors are designing through ICT, they will then bring it down for people also to design physical die, physical tool, where we will then send to the casting center, where we use industrial finance to mold our own spare parts, our Greek inputs. It is not everything that we are going to import from foreign countries. For example, Scania, since they are coming here, government can put mentions that mind people, there's a company here who are manufacturing springs. So you can come with your past without springs. Our company here produce springs for you.
Thank you, George. Very interesting perspective. I'm told we have about 2 minutes to connect back to Berlin. So first, Ed, really fast, how do you describe the level of preparedness? And I give the Honorable Minister the final word. How can we align incentives between government and the private sector?
That's yours.
I think the level of preparedness, I would say, is work in progress.
Yeah, it's basically work in progress. Things are moving. But the key thing I wanted to emphasize is the school-to-work transition. Because even though at the moment there is a number of engineers being produced.
Okay, Ed.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay, no problem. We wait here. Okay, we wait here. But then I would leave because you two will leave. Yes. Take it easy. Is it you? Yeah. Okay.
Mikrofon offen, das nicht offen. Nur das, was ich alles so lästere, wenn ich da hinten im Publikum sitze, dass das nicht aufgezeichnet wird. Right. Hassan, can you hear me? I think there's still an audio problem because we don't hear you.
We can hear you clear.
Okay, well then please, Hassan, take over for the second panel.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the joint session on automotives. With me here is the Deputy Honorable Minister for Trade and Industry for the Republic of Ghana, Robert Ahomka-Lindsay, and Mr. Frederick Mawson, who's the Managing Director of Scania West Africa. I would also like to welcome Dr. Stefan Lebing, who is joining by video from Berlin.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Thomas Schaefer, Chairman and Managing Director of Volkswagen Group South Africa, joining from Johannesburg. And Mr. Yves Nono, Vice President, Mobility Solutions for the Africa region at Robert Bosch, also joining from Johannesburg.
Thank you.
The West Africa region, primarily the ECOWAS market, has upwards of 450 million population. Currently in Africa, the largest automotive cluster is based in South Africa. The sector there generates significant economic activity, and according to the Industrial Development Corporation of South Africa, the sector supported over 500,000 direct and indirect jobs, producing 615,000 new vehicles annually, and exporting to over 140 export destinations. The automotive sector now represents close to 15% of South Africa's total export value. OEMs such as VW lead this industry, together with their localization of their wider network of suppliers, form the total automotive cluster, benefiting from supply chain multiplier effects of direct and indirect employment. My first question is going to be a general question, and I'll give each panelist an opportunity to respond. Is there a strong business case to have another automotive cluster in the West Africa region? And if that's the case, what role can Ghana play, and what should be the sequencing of activities? Who should move first, OEMs or the suppliers? First question goes to Thomas.
Okay, thank you. As you mentioned, ECOWAS with 450 million people, it would be a myth to believe that in the future there would be no manufacturing in that region. Now, setting up an automotive industry takes a lot of effort and a good plan. Now, the reason why South Africa has an auto industry that is on the level that it is today is because it had a plan, and the government of South Africa has seen it through for many years. Now, Volkswagen's been in South Africa for 68 years, and it took a long time to come to the level that we are now with close to 200,000 car production in our factory in Uitenhage. Now, I believe there's a strong case for West Africa, specifically when you look at the amount of vehicles per 1,000 inhabitants. In most of African countries, we're talking about 20 to 30 cars per 1,000 people. In South Africa, it's about 150. And there's no reason why countries like Ghana cannot slide up the scale with good policy to the 150 cars on the level to South Africa, which would then equate to 300,000 cars for Ghana alone. And for the region ECOWAS, you're looking at probably about 3 million cars, which would sustain massive investment, and you could have business cases that really make sense. But it would also require a good cooperation between the ECOWAS countries so that there's a win-win between countries like Ghana, Nigeria, and whoever else participates in the value chain. So it's all about creating this win-win from my point of view.
I think I would like to turn the same question to Frederick.
Thank you, Hassan. So I might see things from a more heavy vehicle industry point of view than passenger cars, since I work for Scania. Well, first of all, I would like to say, to make a business case, you have to see the obstacles which are there. So without being negative, I think you have to list them and see what you could do about them. And if you look at the Ghanaian market for cars, that might be commercial vehicles or passenger cars, It's very small in relation to South Africa, as we heard. I made a rough calculation compared to Germany. It would be the penetration of cars is about 1/10 of that in Germany. If you have 2-3 persons per car, you have 1/10 for that here. So that limits the total market. But with economical development and growth, that is likely to change, but it doesn't happen overnight, of course. Secondly, a lot part of the vehicles imported to Ghana and other countries in the region for that sake is second-hand vehicles. Typically, 1 out of 10 vehicle is a new vehicle. So 9 out of 10 is accordingly a used vehicle. And that is something that could be regulated and controlled so that Ghana and for that sake other countries in Africa do not become dump markets or dumping markets for non-traffic worthy environmental unfriendly cars from the rest of the world. I think that this would be a wise policy. If we go on, the automotive industry is also extremely efficient, I would say. It's been working for years, for decades, even for more than 100 years like our company, to streamline its production. It started with Henry Ford doing things in a very rational way, and it's been going on since then with constant improvements. And we are working with that every day, even though we have 127 years of experience. So it's very difficult to start an automotive industry from zero. And you need to factor that in somehow, and otherwise the products at the end will be more expensive. And I don't think anyone wants the consumer to pay more for a car in Ghana than elsewhere. But it is very important to look at that aspect. And when I say that the industry needs to be productive, it's not only to have skilled and well-trained workers, which I think could be achieved here, but it's also to be close to sub-suppliers and close to the market. The final assembly part, and I'm speaking more from a truck perspective, which I know better, is also a relatively small part of the total value chain. To assemble a truck is about 3% of its value. So it's one of the opportunities that might be there to have a final vehicle assembly for trucks or for buses for that sake. But the biggest added value lies in the component manufacturing and other parts, and also in, as I said before, in the lifetime of a vehicle later on. The fuel consumption, where does it come from? The maintenance and so on, which is a separate issue. Sub-suppliers today in Ghana are on a very low level. Very few sub-suppliers that would be up to the standards to auto manufacturers. But I understand from the minister that this is something that you intend to change, and I think it's feasible, but you'd have to look at the right things. And typically, I would look at things which has a high content of labor and a high value added. The regional competition is also there. Other countries are giving incentives to attract vehicle assemblers. So Nigeria is maybe the most flagrant example. They have high duty preferences for components and assembly kits compared to complete vehicles in the order of 35% today. This helps, of course, the local industry to be established. So looking at the obstacles, what would be the way forward? Well, I would say that has been mentioned before, regional integration, access to a bigger market, and removal of trade barriers to achieve that. That's the number one thing. Only Ghana is not big enough for any company without very strong incentives. But with a regional perspective, it becomes much more interesting. Number two, it's to develop a market to go from used vehicles to new vehicles through financing schemes, awareness campaigns, regulation of imports, and so on and so forth. But last and foremost, incentives are needed. I think all auto manufacturers who does a business case would come to the same conclusion, and it is really important to build up industry to get incentives. But and this is a political decision, so it's not so it's not for me to decide. But we have the pleasure of having the honourable minister here. So if you would like to create a good business case for an auto industry in Ghana, I would advise to give duty incentives, duty rebates on components and kits which are coming here. The industry is not more complicated than it will act on the benefit that it finds from from doing things here. We all act in the same way. We're quite predictable in every business, you know.
Okay. Thank you, Frederick. I'm going to bring the Honorable Minister in a minute. But before I do that, let's go to Berlin. Stefan, is there a business case for having another automotive cluster here in West Africa?
Good morning from Berlin. I would say, who would I be to teach my colleagues who are from the industry and who gave a clear yes? I think Thomas Schäfer is a fellow director on the board of Africa Fine, so he's the sector expert, and I fully subscribe to what he's saying. Let me look at this from a slightly different perspective. When it comes to Africa as an investment destination, what we usually do is to try and develop a story for each of the countries, to identify what are the main, what is the story of Germany going somewhere, what are the main sectors, what is the projects that require fast track and special political attention by our friends in Africa. And to be honest, I've been visiting Ghana a number of times. Last time I was there with Chancellor Merkel. And I believe in many cases where German industry can contribute, Ghana is well ahead. Speaking about renewable energy, the last Minister of Energy I saw, he told me he's got 4 times as many PPAs on his desk than the grid can absorb. So many of the sectors are just well developed, so that I believe for the first time ever, one of the key sectors of German industry is now moving into sub-Saharan Africa. One is machinery, the second is automotive. We see a lot of machinery companies in Nigeria because you've got the market there, the production sites, food processing, packaging, whatever. And for Ghana, I believe the story could be Germany is going to do automotive. We have discussed here this morning a book that carries the title Africa is going to be the next Asia. And I believe there's a lot of truth in that. We are going to see a repetition of the success story Germany has had in Asia. And by the end of this century, we expect the same population numbers on the 2 continents, about 5 billion people each, or 4.5 billion people each. So if that is the case, I believe there's a great story to be had in bringing automotive industry to Ghana. But again, as was said before, there's 2 or 3 prerequisites, and one being we need to go full speed with reform, regional integration, and providing the framework in a way that industry can develop now. And I think what Volkswagen is doing makes a lot of sense. They just put a number of countries and regions into competition, and in the end we'll see who is fastest in terms of supporting with the reform required.
Thank you, Stefan. I would now like to bring in Yves from Johannesburg.
Yes, thank you. I think there's not a lot to add after this comprehensive inputs from the colleagues. What might need to be added is, if you look at the automotive industry, it's a definitively yes also from our side, with the 4 million mentioned by Thomas Schäfer, the potential there. This is one, I will say one portion of the equation. The second portion of the equation is the political willingness. We do have the willingness in Ghana, which has been reiterated this morning. We do have additional country, one big elephant in the room from Nigeria. Thomas and myself, we have been in Nigeria within the last 2 months, where we met also with the authorities having similar discussion. On top of that, we have the growing middle class. And those growing middle class need to have access to mobility. Therefore, there will be also a demand there. This is not only about the potential. And the question is how do you make it happen? And this is a mix also from the Bosch side, as seen as the policy deployment. This is a mix of the political willingness, of course, but also lifting up the standards. What I mean by lifting up the standards, if you look today, African country in terms of vehicle inspection, we have maybe 3 or 4 which are part of the CETA, which have a proper vehicle inspection program in place. So with the vehicle inspection, you can also tackle issues such as road depth. We can also lift up the standard and also drive the technology into the countries. If you look at testing, right, National Testing Center, these also are those mechanisms you can put in place, and we don't need really the OEM for that. But this needs to be part of this comprehensive, I would say, master plan, like South Africa has such one. How do you approach the automotive industry? And for that one, you also don't only need the I will say the political willingness, but you also need to have the right partner on board. Talking about, for instance, the G20, talking about the CETA in terms of consulting, and other organizations which are willing and also have the expertise to help you to set up this environment. Yeah.
Thank you, Yves.
Thank you.
Honorable Minister. So I think we've had a consensus of positive movement towards this automotive sector in West Africa.
Yes.
But some key themes came out. Questions on incentives, questions of harmonizing the trade regimes. Okay. What are some of the policies that your ministry has to help with this regional integration agenda?
Well, I think it's a very rich dialogue, and I want to build on what has been said. It starts off very clearly. Let's look at the market. I look at Volkswagen, I look at Scania. I used to work for a similar, I won't go into name, larger international corporation that looks at the existing market where you have a very strong base. You look at a new market of 400 odd million people, young people, opportunities for expansion, economic development. Where is your next Asia going to come? That is why we said Africa is the next Asia. So the investment decision is both one based on reality and the economic development we're all talking about in terms of where it is. And the example given about penetration, and Ghana alone being 300,000 vehicles, I think says that very well. And that is the very same base on which we as government are working. We're not working, and I think this is one of the fundamental differences between our president and this administration, is that we make market-based decisions. And so when you tell me about incentives, I have no issues with incentives, but there will be smart incentives. They're going to be time-bound and based on specific deliverables on both sides of the equation. Yes, we know we need incentive to begin the cluster, but as we speak, I've got a battery manufacturing company that's looking at coming in, both electric and others. I have a car seat manufacturing company that is coming in. So we understand that we have to help push the momentum to build that. And all of those become an important aspect for the clustering question. So incentives, we know, understand. We will we'll make sure those incentives meet both the requirements of the entry coming in on board, and understand also that as government, there needs to come a time where the business builds to have a clear strategy. But the strategy is not a one-year strategy, I think I said. This is a medium to long term. We want to be in this sector. And again, I repeat the example of Morocco and Renault. This is a decade. South Africa, I'm told, is 60+ years. It's slightly different. I want to talk also about what technology will also help us do today that perhaps we couldn't do yesterday. Today, it's possible to design a car in Stockholm, one aspect of it, have one aspect manufactured in Berlin, another manufactured in Tokyo, another manufactured in London, and assembled in Brazil. Now, that offers a huge opportunity as Ghana coming into the marketplace, coming into an environment coming into an industry where technology allows you to do certain things. Select which part of the value chain you want to be part of, and then make sure we provide that incentives for that value chain to come in. I go back to one other area which was mentioned, which is about the duty preferences and machinery manufacturing. Duty and regional integration is a core. We recently signed the Continental Free Trade Agreement, and as you know, Ghana and Kenya are one of the two countries that ratified it, double quick time. In fact, we're looking to hope that we can house or be the host of the Continental Free Trade Office in Ghana here. But Ghana has always and will always believe in the value of regional integration, regional trade, and encouraging the need for us to trade with each other. That also links back to the machinery, because I think has been very clearly stated, this is a value chain approach. You can't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to just manufacture cars. It doesn't work that simple. We understand that. And so it has to be a value chain approach, both analysis and in our discussions that we've had, for instance, with both our colleagues and the development partners, both the Germans, the Swiss, the British, And in fact, we're doing a value chain analysis in the automobile industry supported by DFID. It is about the value chain analysis and how we engage in that. I want to come back standards. We mentioned a little earlier, but again, critical. Listen, we have too many car accidents. We know a lot of our vehicles on our roads, frankly, probably shouldn't be there. We understand that. And so it's a little bit of a chicken and egg situation. I also remember the first time I ever bought a car fully with cash is when I came back home. I'd never bought a car fully with cash before. Normally you take a credit facility, either provided by the manufacturer or by finance. That is why we have to fix the fact that you can't have a lending rate of 35%, because that just doesn't work. You have to manage your exchange rate. So this is all part of it. And we know that in order for the automobile industry to grow, credit has to be provided. In order for us to reduce, nobody wants, if they have a chance, to buy a second-hand car versus a new car. But sometimes you just have a choice because the entry point is just too expensive. So I think this all becomes a critical element. All the work we're currently doing to sensitizing and basically reforming the financial services sector is to bring down the cost of borrowing, because we know if we don't do that, all the impactful events, all the consequential events will not happen. So that becomes a key area. There's one area I want to. Also, there's another aspect, which I think is sometimes we always forget, but government is also leading with its mouth, if I can put it that way, putting its money where its mouth is. We've made a commitment as a government that 70% of all taxpayers' money that we use will be spent on made in Ghana products. So Ghana is making a decision that says that there's no point us going there and telling the rest of the world or telling Ghanaians to support it. We will support with our taxpayers' dollars, made in Ghana projects. I want to talk, if I can, a little bit on the reform aspect in terms of where we are. The reality is, as we look at today, and if you look at any of the analysis, and this morning our Minister of Finance laid out a very clear structure of where we've come on 20-odd months. We've got a predominantly young population. The needs and wishes are no different from those in Berlin, Joburg, Turkey, looking at different parts of the world. Young people want the same thing every young people want to run the world. The question is affordability, and the economic situation allows them to do that. And I think this is where we're having that dialogue. This is where the presidential clear strategy of a Ghana Beyond Aid talks about Ghanaians wanting to join that population. And that population comes with certain aspects and things that we government have to do. And so when it comes to the question of is government prepared to do the reform, the answer to me unequivocally is absolutely. In fact, not only are we prepared to do the reform, we will sit down and sign a basis where we say, if we do X, you do Y, so that we have a very clear analysis. I want to give an example. When we first came into government, an example was given where taxes had been put on tickets for domestic travel. Right now, as we sit here, we have one airline operating currently. The second one has just started. And analysis or issues were given that if the Minister of Finance removed that 17.5% VAT, which was put on airline, the airline companies will simply just absorb it and the prices wouldn't change. To which my retort was, if they do that, the Minister of Finance will put it back on again. Because we're doing it for a purpose. And if we are going to work together on the basis of public-private partnership, if we're going to understand that the private sector is and has to be the creator of jobs and growth in the environment, then the debate and the discussion has to take a different level. And that is why my opening remarks were, let's put aside some of those perceptions of, I read somewhere not too long ago, in fact, by the same magazine that says Africa is the new one, that Africa was a lost continent not too long ago. Today, that similar magazine, a few years down the road, has changed that. And I think it's because Africans, and I repeat, Africans have understood that we don't like where we are, we want to change, and we want to change that with the partnership of our international partners. And I think that becomes...
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I think it was very important to hear your perspective. So my next round of questions is going to focus on supply chain activities. Supply chain activities. Look, let's all face it. We've chosen the automotive sector, probably the most complex manufacturing sector that you can think about, both in terms of the product complexity the process complexity, the processes that you need, sophistication that you need to make these products, and also the value chain complexity. So very complex sector. My question for the panelists: what types of supply chain activities do you foresee your companies relocating to Ghana or developing in Ghana at this stage, both in the short term and the long term? First, I'll give Frederick the chance to respond.
Sorry, yeah, thank you. First of all, I just like to thank the Minister for very much of what you said. It's, I was going to say, it's like music to our ears. And it's good that you understand the challenges which are there, and financing is only one of them, and it's very important. And the teenager who would like to buy a car, of course, is good if he gets a low interest rate, but the transport company who's living from his investments, or if the factory owner who is living from his investments, if he's spending too much on transport because interest rates are too high for his investments, it's even worse, I think. So coming back to the supply chain, I think we should widen the scope. Automotive is not only the vehicle itself, it's part of the system. It starts, as I think I said before in the previous session, with the manufacturing of the components and the assembly of the vehicle. But then during the lifetime, which is over a decade after it's been manufactured and delivered, you need to maintain it, you need to service it. And if I would take one of our trucks, typical, the value of the after-sales activities that you put in to make it run for its entire lifetime has the same value as the truck from the beginning. So, and the added value and the local manpower that you need to put in it, it's completely different, of course. So to maintain vehicles with skilled people during its entire lifetime is both a good investment and also a job creation activity. The other thing, which is actually the biggest input in the vehicle, is the fuel. Today we're still running very much on combustion engines. The future might hold other solutions. It might come, it will come, it's already there. Our company, as well as most other automotive manufacturers, are investing heavily in tomorrow's technology, which would be, to some extent, battery vehicles, electrical vehicles. But today the combustion engine is still predominating, and in our view it will be for many years. But fuel, there are many different types of fuel. And as I said, that's the biggest expense you have to run a vehicle, and especially a commercial vehicle, I would say. There are tremendous opportunities in Ghana to manufacture fuel here. You have some oil findings, fine, but you could also make fuel from jatropha, you could make it from waste, you could make biogas from waste, for instance. There's an excess of waste in Ghana today, and power buses with that. We have a technology for that. We are not alone with that. You see that happening in many cities around the world. So this is really a sector that I think should be looking into, but Ghana should look into. And it connects what is coming after us here with the agricultural sector also. How could you develop the agriculture sector both to feed the people of Ghana and to deliver a big part of the fuel need in Ghana? I think it's possible, and it's something really that I would encourage to look into. When it comes to the vehicle manufacturing itself, again, from a truck perspective, from a bus perspective, what a company like Scania do, like Mercedes, MAN, or any other company for that sake also, is the chassis. And on the chassis you put a specialized bodywork to do what you need to do. That could be a platform, it could be a refuse collector, it could be a tipper body, and that part of a product could be anything from 20% of the value to 80% of the value of a vehicle, depending on how sophisticated it is and what it's going to be used for. But these equipments are made in smaller series. This equipment includes more labor to manufacture, so it will create more jobs. The added value is quite high. So that's where I would start. We already tested actually in Ghana. We made tipper bodies here in Ghana together with a company we worked together with. We also made bus bodies together with Neoplan. The factory still exists, and we've done 2 prototypes. So it's possible, and it creates quite a lot of inputs in Ghana. So that's...
Thanks, Frederick.
Thank you.
I'd like to bring in Thomas first, and then Eve from Johannesburg. What types of activities do you realistically see in Ghana, and what kind of progression should Ghana pursue?
In the passenger car and light commercial vehicle space, everything is about volume. Okay, so when you look at what we do in South Africa, Volkswagen just close to 200,000 cars per year. We battle to localized parts above the 50% value. So we even working on it for many years and with a strong supplier base. So you battle with that kind of volume. You need more volume. You need to, as an industry, at least look at 1.5 million, 2 million cars production to have sustainable suppliers for the future. Now, you can do that in three different ways. First, you can produce in your country and hope that you can export it someplace else. Like the typical one, you do cable harnesses in Egypt and you try to sell them everywhere else but in Egypt. That's not sustainable, especially when you look at the world, how it's developing at the moment with America and Brexit and Europe going a different way in kind of type of vehicles. Or second one, aftermarket. You find yourself stuff that is needed anyhow. It doesn't matter for local production, like the tires, the spark plugs and oil and so on. But it's also not really bringing the value. What I believe needs to be done is to think bigger. And that talks to that regional integration very strongly. What we need to do is not fight a case for Ghana and fight a case for Nigeria and everybody tries to do everything. Why don't we do something African? Why don't we use what we have in South Africa, which is, by the way, also too small. We use Ghana, we use on the East Coast, we use Kenya, and we build a Pan-African auto concept. You make the pie bigger so that everybody's share in it is so big that everybody can live. Now, why don't we build, in South Africa, for example, we build small cars, Polos, Vivos, and pickups predominantly. Why doesn't Ghana build SUVs or sedans? Then the East Coast could do something else. But then each operation by itself would be sustainable. Incentives are great to kickstart something, but if it's not sustainable, people will lose interest, especially government will lose interest when the money gets tight. So you want to make it sustainable, and sustainability comes with volume. So we've been trying to promote this also with the African Automotive Industry Association to reach out and say, come on, let's do something African instead of hoping always for America or UK or whatever. We have so much opportunity in Africa. If we play that right, we can do something African. And it's not South Africa doing something in Africa. It's about Ghana doing something, Kenya doing something, and South Africa doing something. So everybody wins.
Thank you, Thomas. The Pan-African auto concept is definitely an interesting one. Yves, I would like to bring you in now.
Thank you, Hassan. I think I would like to start that we can acknowledging and maybe enforcing what the approach from Thomas, which is really the approach we have decided to embrace in the Automotive Association, African Automotive Association Industry in the AAAM. So on top of that, what I would like to touch base on is the related topic to the supply chains with respect to spare part and component availability. So we talk a lot, if you talk about automotive industry, about used car, which is one of the bottleneck. But we don't talk often about used component on fake component. And the challenge is as much as important for the OEM, the used vehicle, as the used component or fake component for the supplier. So, and now we are back again to the topics of homologation, standardization, and how do you address that? So through putting in place the right homologation for every vehicle entering the country in Ghana or in Nigeria on all those, help you to steer those topics. Same as the release of the part, the fake part. They are coming from countries, right? They are coming from China and other country in the world. But they are also entering the country through the border, through the harbor. So they need to be put in place. Those instruments will help to steer and to give a chance to the one who is willing to locally produce, for instance, the battery, as mentioned by the minister, have a real chance on the market. So, and this can be also take one step further. This means once I have a certain supplier producing locally, I need also to provide them the environment. This means incentive, not only for them, but also for the OEM, which are willing to purchase those batteries locally. that makes sense for them at the end of the day, because it is a business decision. So I think that this is really one keystone that need to be looked into if you talk about supply chain development. This means how do we put the instrument in place to regulate, to approach this topic of used part. I mean, I have been in Ghana, in Accra on the market, and you will see people, they are not able to, because they are not able to realize what's the difference between an original one and a fake part, they decide to go for the used part, right? So, and this is not something we can further entertain, yeah? So that is the point I wanted to make. And of course, this is linked to the training and also the awareness of the population or the roadside mechanics. We need to train them how to differentiate between genuine or a fake part, and also to bring back the topic of total cost of ownership. This was mentioned by the colleague from Scania. If I do purchase a used car and I spend over the rest of the life car more money in service, in fuel than the purchase, and if I purchase a new car, I spend less. At the end of the day, I spend more money. So we need to bring all those, I would say, ingredients together to provide the right training to roadside mechanic, to the right tooling, but also to regulate the market somehow. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. I would now like to turn back to Berlin to Stefan. Stefan, we've heard a lot of very interesting points there. How can the German African Business Association help its members in Germany to facilitate this process of transferring more activities into the automotive value chain here in Ghana? Stefan.
Thank you, Hassan. That's a real easy one, to be honest. I think there's mainly three areas where we can do something and where we can do more, in fact. First is most of the members of that sector are member in my organization. So I think the first role is to inform them of what's going on in various countries, where to move, where to follow the OEMs. I mean, Thomas Schäfer doesn't need information from us, but a lot of the suppliers is what we call Mittelstand. Mittelstand, we've heard this morning, is very conservative, sometimes very conservative, family-owned businesses, world market leaders in a special niche, but they wouldn't necessarily look to Africa by themselves and not necessarily have all the African countries on their radar screen. So pointing them to opportunities that they might otherwise be missing and always be up to date on developments, I think, is one thing that classically a business association would do. Second is we need to work with our friends in Africa and with African governments on behalf of our members in making sure we have the necessary reform in place at a speed that makes sense to potential investors so that they don't lose interest, because I think that's something we have in common. We want this to happen, and we want it to happen very soon. We work, the ambassador here is there, Excellency. We work with governments all over the place, and now that I more and more understand about the Pan-African automotive industry concept, you need a Pan-African industry association to work with all of these governments in parallel. And the third thing is not to be underestimated. I mentioned it's going to be Mittelstand that will follow the big OEMs. While the OEMs can afford going and taking certain risk, Mittelstand, family-owned, specialized businesses are not necessarily going to do that. They will be looking for export credit cover, they will be looking for investment guarantees, for all sort of financing instruments and making sure they don't lose money if something goes wrong. And I think that is something the German government needs to help with. And that is the context also of the G20 initiative that is on the title of this conference today. So we need to work with the German government also to get the right framework and the right hand-holding so that German family businesses can move together with the OEMs.
Thank you, Stefan. Honorable Minister, I'm back.
Thank you. Thank you. Am I on board? Yes.
I think what role, we've had a lot of different things here in terms of, let's not only focus on Ghana. Let's think about a broader platform, the Pan-African platform, the regional integration idea.
Yes.
We've heard about some of the activities that make more sense for Ghana, especially at this early stage, which might not necessarily be attracting tier one suppliers today, for example. What role can your ministry play to facilitate some of these ideas that have been discussed today?
Wonderful. So let me talk to you about the value chain, the cocoa value chain. I think if I went to Europe and I talked to people about getting cocoa from Ghana, nobody would bat an eyelid, would they? It wouldn't be a discussion about value chain because it's clear that's where it comes from. We've inherited a system where the mindset is that raw materials comes from Africa and you send finished goods to Africa. That is part of what we need to change. We need to change this perception. We need to change this concept, which has driven a lot of our industrial base for decades in the past. And that is at the start of the discussion. And that talks about Ghanaian, West African, African people wanting to move to a different direction, a Ghana beyond aid, an industrial base. And I think that's where it starts off, because without that dialogue, that conception still is sitting in people's mindset. So when you talk about Africa, forget it. When you talk about Ghana, yes, if I'm buying cocoa, I'm buying oil palm maybe, but I don't think about going there to make cars. And that is the whole concept of changing that dialogue. Because that value chain is clear, nobody would ask you about that. Nobody asks you the value chain of the bauxite. You know that the bauxite comes there to make aluminium and the other way. So I think that's the key. But what can we do to support that? In terms of regional wide, and I gave that example. We have ECOWAS. As you said, I'm a little less numbers than you, but I guess our big brother, 450 million people. What if we made the batteries in Ghana, some of the chassis in Nigeria, something else in Cote d'Ivoire, and we assembled in Liberia? These are business opportunities that are there. So before even I think about Kenya, I think about the 450 million, and maybe develop that, and that can be part of the plan because the economic community is there. It links in very clearly then to the fake composite. Our Standards Authority recently, with the support of GUTA, tested a whole series of second-hand products, and the vast majority of them failed. Now, of course, nobody wants that, but we need to manufacture it. We need to have a source that we are clear, and that is why we want the manufacture of machine parts and equipment here, so that if we put policy in place to stop that, we have an alternative. If we cut off the tap and there's no alternative, our vehicles cannot come to a standstill. We don't want to do that. I want to also talk about the reform at the speed, so not to lose interest. I think the point made earlier. Absolutely. I think you will find us extremely proactive and extremely key. Suppliers, I forgot the second term, Mittelstand. Thank you very much. That's okay. You know, we know that is absolutely crucial because you have a well-established value chain, you know them, you've worked with them, and part of our strategy is to sit with them and change that mindset. Look for opportunities for partnership with Ghanaian businesses. We talked recently, George from Swami came a little earlier to talk about what can be done. We talked German government. I have had a number of discussions for His Excellency here about the export guarantee system coming through so that we reduce the barrier for taking that step. Government Ghana has to do its part, the German government, because if we don't do that, then the fear factor will come through. Let us do it for 4 or 5. Let's show successes. Both governments can sit back and the private sector will just get on with it. They would not need us to do anything. Frankly, they'll tell us to get out of the way so they can just continue building their businesses. But at the beginning, this is where we must be the most proactive. So that group is key. And I know our ambassador there will be talking to them. Yofi, I know, we're talking to them. We talk to them. And we would ask Volkswagen and Scania, give us a list. We'll be very happy to go talk to all of them so that we can look at how we can partner, offer opportunities. So if you've got somebody engaged in that. As I'm trying to think areas that questions were asked that I need to. We talk about fuel. This is a key area. Should we be looking at, I know my good friend Supri is there. I have talked to him. Should we even be talking about fossil fuel? Should we go straight to electric? Should technology not allow us to take a leap? Why replicate something why start something we know is dying? So I think this is where the opportunity, again, technology today gives us a very different base. 30 years ago, when he did this kind of analysis, the discussion was very different. It was fossil or go or bust. And we are now in a very different. So I think this is an area that becomes important. Maintenance. Boy, maintenance. I don't know how many of us here who haven't traveled in from Germany with the parts in our luggage. We've all done it. I don't even want to start that though. We have all done it. It is a nightmare because you cannot get the parts. We know this, and we know this is an important element. And when you get here and they ask you, what is that? They don't even ask the question because they know you bring in a... Anyway, let me not go there. But I think it's an important factor of what we're doing. Chassis body, the idea you mentioned the value chain. And it's important. We cannot eat this thing, if I call it, it's like putting a 5-course meal in front of you and you want to eat all at once. You're going to get indigestion. No, you start with the first course. But you know exactly what the meal is because it's in front of you. You know where you want to get to, and let's be very clear in our intervention. But I repeat, this government is absolutely focused on doing what is necessary. But I say smart, not smart as an intelligent, but specific, measurable, etc. That is what we're looking at doing. Having a robust debate and ensuring that we do what we need to do to make it happen.
Thank you, Honorable. So we're coming to the end of this session. I think we have about 5 minutes, and I'm just going to keep it exciting for the last 5 minutes. Frederick, I want each of you to make one big prediction for where you see the West African automotive market in the next 5-10 years. Frederick, 1 minute.
Well, since I'm a born optimist, I would say I would like to see the auto market in Ghana being modern, jumping over certain development steps, like the minister said, it's a possibility. Modern vehicles in a well-regulated, efficient transport system that supports the industry of Ghana. Because without the transport system, the tomatoes grown in Kumasi or the automotive batteries manufactured in Tamale will not reach their consumers. So we need an efficient transport system, and we need a whole series of things to support that. Vehicles is one thing, be they imported, be they manufactured here, depending on if a business case hold. We need fuel or electricity. The electricity has to come from somewhere also. Akosombo Dam is good, but it won't be big enough if all Ghana vehicles would run on electricity. So we need to fuel the vehicle park, and we need to continue to develop the after-sales services so that you don't need to smuggle in your parts from Germany, risking to be caught at the airport. No one likes that, and it costs a lot of money. It drives, it takes away the efficiency of the transport sector, and it's very bad. So we need good services. And that was many things, so I'm bad at answering.
Thank you.
In an easy way. Thank you.
I would now like to go to Johannesburg. Eve.
Yeah, thank you, Hassan. I think that what has been said is we will agree for that from the supplier side. We can act right now, and we are acting. We are on the ground, and we are talking about having almost 10 Bosch car service in Ghana by end of next year, right? We have one of the most powerful I will say aftermarket network as a big supplier, and this will address the topic of part needs. We are actively working on vocational and technical training to help the roadside mechanic to understand the dynamic with the new vehicle, and also talking about new technology, leapfrogging, to bring them up to at the state-of-the-art technology. And this is a joint effort with Scania, with partner, and our with government. So I am very positive about the picture in the next 5 to 10 years. Of course, this needs a lot of willingness, but I have no doubt that the willingness is there from the public as well as from the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Yves. Thomas?
I would just wish that everybody had the willingness of Ghana. And I commend the Deputy Minister for what he said. He's like, it's like a home run. But I would just say the one thing. When you look at what we're experiencing at the moment in Rwanda, where the most unlikely country you ever could think of, and how this country leapfrogs development in terms of modern mobility. And it's not always about the classic business cases and the classic manufacturing. If Ghana could pick up on that, and we are busy working with the government of Ghana on that mobility idea as well, and to multiply this into what we think it could be in the context of West Africa, then we are talking about a very short term, at least 2 million car production in West Africa, which would be phenomenal and sustainable. So I'm very hopeful with the drive that Ghana and the Ghanaian government is showing. I'm very hopeful that we can multiply the effects that the experience that we have gathered on the East Coast so far, and multiply it on the West Coast. So very happy.
Thank you, Thomas. Stefan?
My countdown here says I have 0 seconds left to speak, so let me make use of that most efficiently. I don't know where Ghana's automotive industry is going to be in 5 years, but I believe Africa's automotive industry in 30 or 40 years is where China's is today, with a lot of contribution from Germany. We need 20 million jobs on the continent every year just to cover for population growth. So to be honest, we don't have a choice. We just need to go and get it done. What share goes to what country is very much in the hands of our African friends.
Thank you, Stefan. And an honorable minister, I'll give you the final word for this panel.
Thank you very, very much for that. Sorry, I took my microphone off. Let me put that back on again. I want to take the opportunity. Oh, are we gone? I can hear music. Oh, okay. You want to have lunch? Okay.
We want you to see to dance over there.
No, I'm not Chancellor Wainwright. Let me not go there. I really want to thank everybody for their contributions. I really want to reiterate, it's a journey, it's a partnership, and we are fully ready to play our part and look forward to working together as we move on. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining the panel. Thank you.
Klasse.
We can now reward you with some tea or coffee in the room where we had breakfast. And if anybody wants to know where the washrooms are, they're located at the end of the corridor off the catering area. We will meet back here at 11:45 to start the